AITA for moving after winning full custody of my sons. My wife and I got a divorce last year. Our relationship failed after she was charged with felony credit card fraud and ended up pleading guilty to a lesser charge. She had been a som to our two sons 5 and 3 and had taken credit cards out in my mom's name to pay for God knows what. She shattered my trust. I work full-time and make a decent living, but nothing extravagant. I had no clue what my wife was doing until cops showed up at my door with a warrant and took my wife away in cuffs and took 2 laptops as evidence. When I got the full story, I filed for divorce immediately. Aside from being a criminal, she was a good mom. She tried to justify what she did by saying she was just doing what was best for our kids, which I felt was total BS given that she never mentioned wanting for anything, and anytime she asked to spend on something I almost always said yes. I hired a good lawyer and asked for full custody of my kids. My ex begged me not to do that, saying she needed her kids, but she was still looking at up to a year in jail, and nothing her lawyer said could sway the judge to grant her anything more than supervised visitation. She ended up doing 90 days in jail, paying some fines and restitution. But I've allowed her to see our sons almost every time she's asked. The last year has been total hell, but we've made it work. A few months ago I was offered a much more lucrative position a few states away. I talked with my lawyer about what it would mean if I moved and what the process was. He said that since I have full custody, I have to file a petition with the court to move. So I told my wife what I wanted to do and she exploded. She claimed I was stealing her kids from her, that she's made a lot of strides to get herself to a better place, and that she would fight me tooth and nail for her kids. Well, I filed the petition, got the go-ahead from the courts, and accepted the job. When the judge gave his ruling, my wife burst into tears and began sobbing. It was heartbreaking. I know in my head that I'm doing the right thing for my sons. They are young enough that a move like this won't be too traumatic, but I also feel like their lives have already been completely overturned and I'm just adding more to that. As for my wife, she's a wreck. She's been begging me to reconsider the move, trying everything from guilt trips, manipulation, bargaining. It's like she's going through the stages of grief. But from my point of view, she did this to herself. She lied and broke the law. I have very little sympathy for her. I know at some point she will probably try to file for partial custody, and I'm prepared for that. For now, I'm just trying to do what's best for me and my sons. Does that make me an asshole? Edit. Thank you to everyone who commented, even the ones who called me a heartless oaf for taking my sons away from their mother. This post has given me a lot of perspective and I appreciate that. A couple things I want to clear up that I keep getting asked about that I wasn't able to include in my original post. The area my sons and I live in is a smaller community. Not everyone knows everyone, small, but close. The crime my ex committed was news here. It was in the paper. People know about it. I get weird looks when I'm out in public. People have stopped inviting my sons to birthday parties. I don't want my sons to be bullied and teased in school about their mother being a criminal. I am not going to permanently alienate my sons from their mother. I will make sure they are able to talk and FaceTime with her whenever they want. I will be the one who makes the drive back in order for them to see her until she is able to make arrangements to allow her to do so. I will continue to work with my ex to make sure she is included in things like birthdays and holidays. I know my sons and I will all need therapy from this. There is not good mental health help available where my previous job is. My new job offers on-site childcare and I will have access to counseling and therapy for myself and my sons that we would not have access to without moving. The schools near my new job are head and shoulders above the ones near my previous job. If my ex gets her life back on track and is able to move closer to us, I'm all for it. If she does the things she needs to do in order to petition for shared custody, I don't intend on fighting her for that. But until she does that, I will not allow her anything more than the supervised visits ruled by the court. I will also not ask for any of the court-ordered child support. We won't need it. To all the people who screamed but she's their mother, yes, and she always will be. And I remind my sons daily that their mom loves them very much, and that she wishes she can be with them like before. I am angry and resentful of my wife, but I work very, very hard to not let any of those feelings impact my sons and their relationship with their mom. Story 2. AITA for not giving my parents their son back. When I 26 male was 20 years old, my mom and dad had a 1-year-old son Eddie. They were struggling in their marriage and had been for years. They thought having another baby would magically fix things, but they were wrong as it just caused more problems and strained their finances. They were in over their heads and decided go give Eddie up for adoption. I begged them not to, but they had made up their minds. Social workers asked other family members if anyone would like to take Eddie. Both my older brothers refused and my grandparents were too old, so I took my brother in. This royally annoyed my parents and I was threatened with disownment, but I didn't care as I already had a place of my own with an ex at that time. My folks lost their paternal rights and I legally adopted my brother, and I love him so much and was proud to be his daddy. My brothers didn't approve of me adopting him, but I didn't care as they had never met him even when he was still with my parents. My grandparents helped me out a lot and were great. Unfortunately, they have both passed since then and left me what money they had left to raise my bro. My folks and siblings were pissed, but my aunt and uncles didn't care and thought it was best. At family events over the years, my folks would be uncomfortable when I'd show up with Eddie, but within the last year they had seemed to warm up a tad, and I figured they themselves wanted to act more like grandparents as he is legally my son. During the last few months, however, I've noticed my parents and brothers try and talk to Eddie on their own about if he knows who his mummy and daddy is. He says I'm daddy, and usually I walk in and scold them before the conversation can go much further than that. I've yet to tell him the truth, and I know I have to one day, but I don't think now is the right time, and even if it was, I should be the one to tell him. The other day I caught my mum trying to talk to Eddie about this again when she was visiting me, Ed and my current partner. I asked my BF to take Eddie out for a bit, where me and my mum got into an argument. She thinks I'm being a terrible parent and that it's time she and my dad take Eddie back. I told her that there is no way I'm letting that happen, so I kicked her out. Now my parents are threatening to sue for custody, and my brothers agree while aunts and uncles say they support me no matter what. So AITA. Edit. Whoa, I expected a few replies, at least not this many. I have decided that I'm going to tell him tomorrow. Have a me and him day and explain it the best I can and answer what I can. Edit 2. Okay, so I told him. It's half term here in the UK, so he didn't have school. Around lunchtime I took him to get his favorite food. We then went for a walk in the park talking about family and stuff. Eventually we sat down and I told him about how I adopted him, but I'm still daddy, and that I still loved him, but then I explained how I came to look after him. It's fair to say he didn't understand some things and has been a bit quieter than usual, but he cuddled up to me while I was watching a film I loved when I was a kid and said I love you daddy when I put him to bed. I'm feeling better and I hope he does too. To say it's been an emotional day is an understatement.